Shalom, family. Welcome to the Brother Mike Experience with your boy, Brother Mike. Today's experience will be another Bible study. But before we get into it, I want to first give praise to the Most High God and thank Him for allowing me to be here this morning, waking up, allow me to do this video. And I pray that the Father guides my words and guards my tongue so that I do not cause any confusion. So we give thanks and honor and praise to the Most High God, the one we like to call Yah, as in Jeremiah, Hallelujah, Hezekiah, Isaiah, Mikael Ben Yah, me, your boy, Brother Mike, right? All right, let's get into it. All right, so today's Bible study is going to be about the dietary laws. We are going to go over some of the dietary laws that are in the Bible that are for the children of Israel. Now, this was actually a request. I actually had a couple people say to me, hey, can you do a video on the dietary laws? I have a bit of confusion when it comes to it. Maybe you can help give me clarity. Say no more. So here we are today. So we're going to go over the dietary laws. So the dietary laws is fairly simple. We're going to stay within Leviticus chapter 11. And as I always tell everyone, make sure that you get a King James Bible with the Apocrypha in it. If you can't actually locate a physical copy, you can actually download an app. And instead of downloading the KJV app, you want to make it the KJVA. So that's the King James Version with the Apocrypha. That way you can follow along. But for this particular lesson, we really won't be in the Apocrypha. So if you just have a regular King James Version, that'll work absolutely fine. So the reason why I'm going to get into the dietary laws, as I stated, is because it was requested. And I think it's important. I think there is confusion about what we can and cannot eat. And of course, when I say we, I am referring to the children of Israel, and these would be descendants of the transatlantic slave as well as the Siberian slave trade. So we're talking about Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. So let's get into it. So everybody turn to Leviticus chapter 11, and let's get into some of these dietary laws. So I shall start, and we're going to read 1 through 47, I believe it is. And we're just going to go over each one of them, so at least you will have an understanding of where it's at and maybe a little clarity of what it actually means. All right, so let's start with number 1. Leviticus chapter 11. And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. All right, so right from the very beginning, I want to point out who is being addressed. So let's read that again. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, that's Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel. So we got two things happening. One, we have the Most High God speaking directly to Moses and Aaron. 2, he's given them instructions to speak directly to the children of Israel, not to the whole world, not to any other nations, to the children of Israel. I'll read it again. And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. So Most High God is giving instructions, and the instructions are coming through Moses and his brother, who's also a high priest, Aaron. All right, number 3. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that ye shall eat. So, cloven-footed. This is the foot of an animal such as like a deer. Chewing the cud. What does chewing the cud mean? Chewing the cud means that they eat grass. They eat grains. They're not carnivorous. They don't eat the flesh of other animals. They simply eat plants and grass and things of that nature. So anything that parteth the hoof and is cloven-footed and cheweth the cud among the beasts, they shall eat. So that means we're allowed to eat animals such as deer. A deer has a cloven foot, and he cheweth the cud. So this is a safe animal. This is an animal that the Most High God said is good for the children of Israel to eat. Number 4, nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean to you. So here we have a camel who also has a cloven foot, right? Let's read this again. Nevertheless, shall ye not eat from them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean to you. Okay, so the camel does not divide the hoof. And because of that, he doesn't fit both of the parameters of dividing the hoof and then chewing the cud. The camel does chew the cud. They actually do not eat flesh of other animals, but they do not have a divided hoof. So according to scriptures and according to the rules that God gives, remember, it's laws, statutes, and commandments. This is what the Most High God gave to his children, the children of Israel. He never gave us religion. This is not religion. This is instructions. So let's read it again. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud. So these are the animals that you can't eat that do chew the cud. And he gave the example of the camel, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean to you. Anything that the Most High God says is unclean to you is an abomination to you. And you're going to see that as we move on. All right, let's move on to number 5. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean to you. Now, what is a coney? If you look it up, you will find a coney is actually like a type of rabbit. So, which makes it what? Like a vermin, right? So when you're looking at rabbits and raccoons and beavers and things like that, these are kind of vermins or rodents, right? So you are not allowed to eat that because he is of the rabbit family. And you're going to see that we cannot eat rabbit. Number 6, and the hare, there it is. Because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean to you. So again, we have another animal that is a part of the rabbit group. You got the coney, and now you got the hare, and we cannot eat from any of these. And why? Because it says he cheweth the cud, meaning they do eat the grass, they do eat the plants, but they divideth not the hoof. And if you know anything about a rabbit, he does not have a hoof. He does not have a cloven foot. He has more or less like a paw. So because of that, God has given distinction to show you that this is an animal that you cannot eat. Now, before I go on to the next one, I want you to really pay attention to number 7 and listen in closely, and hopefully it begins to give clarity on some confusion you've had on this particular animal. Number 7, and the swine. For those who don't know what a swine is, that's a pig, that's a boar. And the swine, though he divideth the hoof, and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud. He is unclean to you. So the swine has both of the details that's needed when it comes to his feet. He divide the hoof, and he is cloven-footed. And cloven-footed is, if you look on the animal, you'll see the hoof, and then it's like 2 other little paws or clovens behind the hoof. That's what cloven-footed is, and they kind of split like this. So the swine, the pig, he has both of those, but he does not cheweth the cud, which makes him unclean. What does swine chew? Anything. If you know anything about a pig, he will eat anything. Anything you throw at him, you could give a pig a dead body and he would devour it. This is the reason he is unclean to you. So we have to pay attention to these animals that the Most High God is saying that we can't eat, because there has been another group of people who told us that we can eat any of these things. And it's not true for the children of Israel. So I'm going to read number 7 again, because I think that one is of the utmost importance, because within the black community, which is majority Israelites, whether claimed or unclaimed, pork seems to be a staple diet, and we are not supposed to be eating that. And because we are so infatuated with eating pork, we are unaware of the consequences that come with eating the swine. And a lot of it deals with sickness. So this is why within our communities, we are plagued with high blood pressure, kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, stroke, cancer. And the medical community is not going to tell you that majority of that is coming from you eating animals that your God, who happens to be the God of all gods, said that you cannot eat. So you're literally making yourself sick by eating these foods. Now, of course, the medical community, they're not going to tell you that. So they're going to let you come in and they're just going to say, oh, it's hereditary. You know, it runs within African Americans or Black Americans, as I prefer to call us, so forth and so on. But they are actually not telling you the truth. It is hereditary, but it's not through blood. What is hereditary is your eating habits. So the reason why you have high blood pressure or you have kidney disease or you have cardiovascular disease and you have family members who had the same thing, the reason why you have it and they had it is because you guys have the same diet. You eat the same foods, such as swine, and we are not allowed to eat swine. Number 8, of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. So not only are you not allowed to eat the swine, but you're not even allowed to touch the swine, because even if you touch it, it makes you unclean. Number 9, these shall you eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall you eat. Okay, so let's dig into this one. So this is another big one. So this is the law statute where the Most High God is telling you what you can eat out of the sea, what you can eat out of the water. And unbeknownst to us, we are not allowed to eat, excuse me, a lot of the things from out of the waters and the seas that we eat. So let's read that again. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever hath fins and scales. So there is your requirements of what you can eat out of the ocean. It must have fins and scales. It must come from the sea and the rivers and the waters. Them shall ye eat. So you are allowed to eat anything from the ocean that has fins and scales, which means what? Fish. So you're allowed to eat fish. Let's move on. Number 10. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, and of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination to you. All right, so what is he referring to when he says, and all that have not fins and scales in the sea? So anything that doesn't have fins and scales is an abomination to us. It's unclean. We are not supposed to eat it. So within our community, what foods does this eliminate? It eliminates catfish. It eliminates shrimp, crabs, oysters, lobsters. I know. Some of y'all out there are just, y'all having a fit right now because you can't believe that God will not allow you to eat these animals. But you got to understand, these animals are bottom feeders, right? So the Most High God said, as one of the children of Israel, your body is a temple. You want it to be clean as possible. So when you eat these things that he called an abomination, and we need to take note of that word, abomination, because you're going to hear that word or some type of association of that word throughout the scriptures more than once. So he said this is an abomination. We're not allowed to eat it. So I know we love our crabs, we love our shrimp, we love our pork ribs, but these are the things that are keeping us sick. And unbeknownst to us, we continue to make ourselves sicker by eating these foods. So this is why it's so important to have videos like this where we go over the dietary laws so you develop an understanding of what we can and what we can't eat. All right, so I want to read this one again. It's number 10. We're in Leviticus chapter 11, and these are the dietary laws. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas, and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination to you. Only thing we can eat from the ocean is fish that have scales and fins. You can't eat shark. You can't eat alligator. You can't eat octopus or calamari, whatever they call it. You can't eat shrimp. You can't eat lobster. You can't eat oysters. Only thing you can eat is fish with fins and scales. I'm sorry. So again, I know within our community, this is a lot of rebellion attached to this, like trying to get Black Americans to give up these abominations is like pulling teeth. But it's only fair that I tell you, you have to understand when God gave these laws, it's for us. And when we don't follow them, there are consequences to pay. So right now, you're taking that blood pressure pill, 1, 2, or 3. You're taking that cholesterol pill, or you've already dealt with cancer. I've had people in my family, loved ones deal with cancer. Any illness that you're dealing with, unbeknownst to you, it is attached to those foods that you are eating. So you cannot sacrifice being an abomination before the Most High God, all because it tastes good to you. You have to get out of that mindset. You have to let that go and stick to your heritage and keep your temple clean. So you can't eat those foods. And I know between catfish, pork, and crabs and lobster, a lot of Black people are having a fit right now. But it is what it is. All right, let's keep going. Number 11, they shall be an abomination unto you. There's that word abomination again. They shall be an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses an abomination. So here we go back to the carcasses again. So just like with the swine, even the fish, even the crabs, the pork, the shrimp, the lobster, even these things as a carcass is an abomination to you. This is according to the laws, statutes, commandments of the Most High God. Abomination seems to be a word that keeps being, put into these dietary laws. And we're gonna find out why it's an abomination. All right, so number 12. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. So again, does a crab have scales and fins? Does a shrimp? Does an oyster? Does a lobster? Does even catfish? Even catfish does not have scales. So you can't even eat catfish because he too is a bottom feeder. So again, you are dumping garbage into your temple. And we've been doing this forever, and this is why we suffer arthritis, high blood pressure, aching bones, cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, cancer. These are all things that affect us because remember, from the very beginning, who did the Most High address? Moses and Aaron. And who did he tell them to address? The children of Israel. So which means you cannot look at what other nations do and decide that you can do it just because it's okay for them to do it. That's a separate nation of people. We can't do what they do, but we've been taught through Christianity that we can. And it's a lie, and our people have been suffering from that ever since. And today's a day to get good clarity based on scripture. Not Brother Mike, based on the word of the Most High God. If you can and if you can't eat these things. Number 13, and these are they which ye shall have in abomination among the fowls. Fowls are birds. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. So now we're getting into the type of birds, things that fly that we can eat and cannot eat. Let's read that again. And these are they which ye shall have in abomination among the fowls. So that word abomination is there again. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. Is that word again? Excuse me. The eagle and the ostrich and the offspring. So these are the first 3 that Leviticus names of fowls of the air that you cannot eat. The first one is the eagle. Now, I find that interesting that the eagle in the Bible is listed as an abomination according to God, something that you cannot eat. Now, food for thought. What happens to be the national symbol for the United States of America? Yeah, it's the eagle. But yet within these scriptures, that eagle is associated with abomination. Things that make you go, All right, let's keep going. And the vulture and the kite after his kind. So, of course, we know what a vulture is, and many of us may not know what a kite is, but it's another type of predator birds. So these are predator birds that actually prey on other animals. They eat birds as well, snakes, whatever they can get their hands on. There's even video footage of large or giant eagles snatching up little babies when people are out in the parks and areas like that. So these animals can get very big. So not only will they eat the flesh of other animals, they will even eat the flesh of humans if given an opportunity. So we cannot eat of the fowls of the air. Number 15, every raven after his kind. So you know what a raven is? This is a type of crow. So you cannot eat a raven. You cannot eat a crow. These are birds that are an abomination to you. Number 16, and the owl, and the nighthawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk after its kind. Okay, so most of us are pretty familiar with these type of birds. So again, you cannot eat these things. Now, I know within our community, a lot of us are thinking, well, I probably wouldn't eat that anyway, which is good because that's why that's already built into you. Like you don't want to eat an owl anyway. You know, you don't want to eat a cuckoo anyway. So that's the spirit of God that's already been put in you. But we're trying to get that to match up with the other things that you're not supposed to eat that you are consuming on a daily basis. So you can't eat the owl. And when it says after its kind, it means any other birds that are of that nature. You know, birds of prey. You're not allowed to eat these things. But let's keep going. Number 17, and the little owl, and the cormorant, and the great owl. So as you can see, you cannot eat an owl. Now, I personally have never seen anyone try to eat an owl, but hey, within this world, you know, you see all kinds of things. So I'm sure there are people who eat owls. Number 18, and the swine, and the pelican, and the gear eagle. So here we have another eagle, the swan, and the pelican. So again, these are fowls, birds of the air, and we cannot eat these things. I don't think these things actually represent a challenge for the children of Israel. These are not the normal things. Some of our biggest challenges lie within the swine and within the rules of the water, you know, not being able to eat anything that doesn't have scales and fins. This is where we fail at. But if you want to be healthy and you want to be in step with the Most High God, keeping his law, statutes, commandments, and you want to keep your children healthy, then you have to get away from eating these animals, these creatures, and stop feeding it to your children. Stop making our community think it's okay to eat crabs and shrimp and pork and lobster and catfish. Trust me when I tell you that these are the things that are keeping us sick, and keeping us sick is keeping others rich. You need to keep that in mind. Clean your temple. Put foods in your temple that are clean, and then your body will begin to repair itself. And of course, you'll be in step with the Most High God, so you'll get a certain level of protection that you haven't been having up to this point, even though you may think you have. All right, let's keep going. Number 19, and the stork, the heron after its kind, and the law pig, lapwing, and the lapwing, and the bat. I mean, who's going to eat a bat anyway? Well, I retract that. In the 80s, there were rock and roll bands that used to bite bats' heads off on stage, but that's another story. So you can't eat these things. You can't eat a bat. You know, you can't eat a bat. You can't eat a heron. You can't eat a stork. Number 20, all fowls that creep, going upon all four, shall be an abomination to you. I'm going to read that again. All fowls that creep and go upon all four shall be an abomination to you. Now, the thing I want to take note of with this particular one is listen to what it's saying. All fowls that creep. Now, we just established that fowls are birds. These are things that have wings that can fly, right? But number 20 says, all fowls that creep, going upon all four, shall be an abomination to you. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen a bird that goes on all four. I've never seen a fowl that has 4 legs. Birds have 2 legs. So what's going on here? What's going on is that the scriptures is showing you that there are creatures on this earth that you may not be familiar with as a human. Think about that. I'm going to read that again. All fowls that creep, going upon all four. That's 4 feet on the ground, shall be an abomination to you. I don't know of a bird that has 4 feet that goes on the ground. You see how that works? So these are actually creatures that we either have never seen or they've went extinct, or better yet, they're still living in remote parts of the world that we haven't come across yet. I promise you, if you was to see something flying that had 4 legs, it would alarm you, because that's not an image that's ever been planted into your mind throughout the history of your life, from school to movies to whatever your eyes have seen. You have never seen that. But yet, here it is right in the scriptures with God telling us this too is an abomination. But again, it begs to investigate, like, what is this that he's referring to? A fowl that creeps on all 4. That's interesting. We don't know a lot about this planet like we think. Clearly, God has never misstepped in his word and has kept all his word, and all his word is true to life. So clearly there are things on this earth that have 4 feet that fly around. Now, I pray I never come across one. That's crazy. All right, 21. Yet these ye may eat of flying, creeping things that goeth upon all 4, which have legs above their feet to leap, and to leap upon the earth. Yeah, to leap withal upon the earth. So I'll read that again. Number 21. Yet these ye may eat of every flying, creeping thing that goeth upon all 4, which haveth legs above their feet to leap withal upon the earth. All right, so now we're getting into the things that go upon all 4 that we can eat. Let's go into it. So 22. Even these of them you may eat: the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. So these are things that go on all 4, but they're not fowls. They fly. They're creepy things, but they're not fowls. Remember in, was it 21? Yeah, 21, it was a fowl. So that's a bird, you know what I mean? So that's a type of bird. Like, imagine like a lion having wings on him. Like, that's what it means, all 4. But these are things that are on the ground that are on all 4. So we're talking about beetles after his kind, the locust after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. So yes, you can actually eat these bugs. There are actually examples within the scripture where some of the prophets had to eat some of these bugs. So when you see things on television and it's like chocolate-covered crickets or chocolate-covered grasshoppers, contrary to popular belief, that we can eat. So you can actually eat that, and you will not be making your temple unclean. You will not be an abomination versus eating lobsters, shrimp, oysters, crabs, pork ribs, bacon, so forth and so on. So we have to learn the things that God says that we can eat. So you can eat crickets. That's interesting, right? You can eat crickets. Number 23. But all other flying, creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination to you. And for these ye shall be unclean. Whoever so toucheth the carcass of them shall be unclean until the even. So let's talk about that. You will be unclean until the even. Even means evening. So you will be unclean until the evening if you eat pork, if you touch pork, if you eat an eagle, if you touch the dead body of an eagle or owl. All these things that have been mentioned for being an abomination or unclean. If you touch them, just touching them, you are unclean until the evening. And if you eat them, you're definitely unclean to the evening, but your body still has that mess in it. But at least spiritually, you have been unclean. Now, why in the evening? It's a good question, right? Why are you unclean to the evening? Well, because contrary to what we've been taught, a new day does not begin when the sun rises. A new day begins when the sun goes down. Remember in scripture, God said it was darkness, and he added light to it. So the darkness was actually here first. So darkness is the beginning of a new day. So if you are unclean from touching the carcass of one of these abominations, let's say a pig, you would have to wash yourself, right? Run mayim over you, which is water in Hebrew. And then you will be unclean until the evening, which is the beginning of a new day. So you're unclean for the rest of that day. That's what that means. All right, let's keep going on. What number are we on here? I believe we are on 25. Yes, we're on 25. And whosoever beareth out of the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean to the even. There you go. So you have to wash your clothes, wash yourself, and you're unclean until the new day begins, which is when the sun goes down. 27. And whosoever goeth upon his paws among all manner of beasts that go on all four, those are unclean to you. Whoso toucheth their carcass shall be unclean until the evening. So now we're going over animals that go on their paws. So we are not allowed to eat anything that goes on its paws. So whether that's a cat, a dog, a bobcat, a wolf, a coyote, anything that goes on its paws is unclean to you. You cannot eat it. And if you even touch the carcass, which is of the dead body, you will be unclean until you wash yourself, wash your clothes until the evening. And again, the evening is what? The beginning of a new day. 28. And he that beareth the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the even. They are unclean to you. There you have it. 29. They shall also be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon the earth, the weasel and the mouse and the tortoise after its kind. So you cannot eat things that creep upon the earth. What examples did the Most High give us? He gave us the weasel, he gave us the mouse, and he gave us the tortoise. So I grew up my whole life watching Bugs Bunny try to make turtle soup. Clearly, he was in the wrong for that. So you can't eat turtle soup. You can't eat tortoises. You can't eat turtles. You can't eat a mouse, which I find interesting because I see all these shows on television about survival, and often they try to kill like a mouse and cut it open and eat it. Well, we're not allowed to do that. That's an abomination. You can't eat those things. Number 30, and the ferret, and the chameleon, and the lizard, and the snail, and the mole. So again, not necessarily things that our community really wants to eat anyway, but you still need to know these things. When you look at the snail, I believe they call that escargot. If you go to fancy restaurants or something, see, they're fancying up and dressing up something that's an abomination that you can't even eat. So never let them talk you into that. Same with calamari and all that stuff. You cannot eat what these other nations eat unless you are ready to pay the price and be sick, have your children sick, and then be out of step with the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, and be under the curses for not obeying. And you don't want to do that. Trust and believe. All right, where are we at here? So let's move to 31. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Whoever so doeth touch them, when they be dead, shall be unclean until the evening. Again, same scenario. Anything that's dead that was already unclean, if you touch it, you don't even have to eat it. You're going to be unclean until the new day comes in after you wash yourself in the evening when the sun goes down. 32. And upon whatsoever any of them, when they are dead, doth fall, it shall be unclean, whether it be any vessel of wood, or raiment, or skin, or sack, whatsoever vessel it be, wherein any works is done, it must be put into the water, and it shall be unclean until the evening. So it shall be cleansed. All right, so what does this mean? Let's start from the top again. And upon whatsoever any of them, when they are dead, doth fall, it should be unclean. So what this means is, if you have a dead animal, anything that dead animal touches is unclean. So if you had that dead animal laying across your table, that table is now unclean. It needs to be washed, and it will not be clean until the evening comes in. If it touched your skin, if it touched anything that you own, because it's unclean and it's a dead carcass, that particular item is unclean until it's cleansed. 33, and every earthen vessel whereinto any of them fallen, whatsoever is in it shall be unclean, and ye shall break it. Okay, so let's get into this. So I just explained that any carcass that touches it makes it unclean. And now, here's the Most High in 33 saying, and every earthen vessel whereinto any of them falleth, whatsoever in it shall be unclean, and ye shall break it. So what that means is, notice the last part, ye shall break it. So every pot, every pan, everything that you've ever used that has touched a piece of pork, catfish, shrimp, lobster, oyster, all the things that are unclean to us, If you have those things in your house still, the Most High said you are to get rid of it. You are to break it and you ought to get rid of it, because those things are still unclean, because you cooked pork in it, because you cooked, rabbit in it, because you had crabs in that pot. These things are unclean to you. And again, I know this is, looked upon as a challenge, and I know Christianity has provided us with an excuse to eat these unclean animals, but I'm going to give clarity on that as well, because that's not true. The law exists, and we are not to eat these things, or we suffer and get sick. And this is why us as a black community are amongst the sickest people in our society. That's because there are rules that apply to just us that we are not living by. All right, let's keep going. 34, of all meat which may be eaten, that on which such water cometh shall be unclean, and all drink that may be drunk in every such vessel shall be unclean. Let's break this down. Of all meat which may be eaten, that on which such water cometh shall be unclean, and all drink that may be drunk in every such vessel shall be unclean. So again, the Most High is showing you that whatever vessel that this particular unclean abomination animal touched, that item is unclean and you need to get rid of it. Remember, he literally said, break it. Take it somewhere, break it, throw it out, get rid of it. It's unclean. Let's go to 35. And everything whereupon any part of their carcass falleth shall be unclean, whether it be the oven, ranges for pots, they shall be broken down, for they are unclean and shall be unclean to you. Hey, there it is. See, so even the pots and pans that you've used to cook these unclean animals, catfish, pork, lobster, crabs, oyster, these things are permanently unclean and you need to get rid of them. The Most High said, break them down and get rid of it, because you are cooking clean food in that same pot or pan, same frying pan that you cook the unclean food. And you can't do that. And this is why you'll hear about kosher. So your pans are not kosher because you cook the abominations in it. You got to get rid of that stuff. 36, nevertheless, a fountain or pit wherein there is plenty of water shall be clean, but that which touches the carcass shall be unclean. So a fountain of water is clean, but those who touch the carcass is unclean. And if any part of their carcass fall upon a sowing seed, which is to be sown, it shall be unclean. So here we have the Most High saying, if anything even touches the fountain, it makes it unclean. But also, if any part of the carcass fall upon sowing seed, which is to be sown, it shall be unclean. Sowing seed, which is to be sown. So this is speaking of the harvest. So if you have an animal that dies on, the seed that you're sowing, it's now unclean. 38, but if any water be put on the seed, and any part of their carcass fall therein, it shall be unclean to you. 39, and if any beast of which ye may eat die, he that toucheth the carcass thereof shall be unclean until the evening. So again, he's going over that you cannot touch the carcass of dead animals. It will make you unclean. All right, which one we on here? I believe. And he that eateth of the carcass of it shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. He also that beareth the carcass of it shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. So here we have an explanation that even if you eat it, you're unclean until the evening. So with that being said, you first have to wash yourself and then you're unclean. Now think about how much you've consumed of crabs and shrimp and lobster and catfish. You've probably literally been unclean for majority of your life. And this is why we suffer the way we suffer, with our aches, our pains, our sickness, our high blood pressure, our heart attacks, our kidney stones. All these things are coming from us not recognizing, A, we're the children of Israel, 2, that we have laws, statutes, and commandments that the Most High God has given us that we have to abide by. And the dietary laws is a big part of that, because he put these laws in place not for him. It's for us. It's for him to teach us how to keep ourselves healthy, how to keep our temple clean. So we cannot deal with these type of things. And I know for a lot of folks, it's hard to let go of certain things. I'm from Maryland. So, of course, I grew up my whole life eating crabs. But, when you know better, you do better. So when I immediately found out that I'm not supposed to eat that and it's linked to my sickness, cold turkey. I ain't had a crab in 10 years. I'm done with it. I ain't ate pork in 10 years, and I'm not going to, because I want to do better. I want to be healthy, and I want to keep the Most High God's laws, statutes, and commandments. All right, let's keep going. 41, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth shall be an abomination. It shall not be eaten. Creeping things. So what are we talking about? Creeping things. Bugs. Now we're talking about bugs. Water bugs, any type of bug. Bugs that crawl on the ground, they creep around. What else creeps around? Spiders, things like that. You can't eat these things. 42, whatsoever goeth upon the belly, and whatsoever goeth upon all four, or whatsoever hath more feet among creeping things that creep upon the earth, them shall you not eat, for they are an abomination. Okay, so let's break 42 down. So the first part says, whatsoever goeth upon the belly. What goes upon the belly? A snake, an alligator, a lizard, any type of reptile. You are not allowed to eat reptiles. I don't care how much New Orleans and Louisiana try to convince you that you can eat crawfish and alligator and lobsters with their witch's brew they call gumbo. That is actually a mixture of a bunch of things that you are not allowed to eat. So every time you eat it, you are putting abominations in your body, which increases the chances of unclean spirits being able to convince you mentally to do other things. Food actually affects your mental. So you cannot eat these things. Next part, and whatsoever goeth upon all four. We kind of went over this. What goes on all four? Cats, dogs. You cannot eat these things. And yes, we all know of a particular nation of people that specializes in trying to feed communities dog and disguise it as chicken. Stop eating those people's food. Continue. Or whatsoever hath more feet among all creeping things that creep upon the earth, them ye shall not eat, for they are an abomination. Okay, so what has more feet than everything else creeping upon the earth? So these are things like spiders, centipedes, things that have a whole bunch of legs that are already kind of scary when you look at it. We're not allowed to eat those things. They too are an abomination. 43, ye shall not make yourselves abominable. See, that word has come up so many times. How many times have I said the word abomination throughout this whole thing? And this is one chapter of dietary laws, which I like. It's all contained right here. But look how many times the word abomination has come up. To do these things is an abomination. But let me keep going. 43 again. Ye shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creepeth, neither shall you make yourselves unclean with them, that ye should be defined thereby. So again, can't eat the unclean things. 44, for I am the Lord your God. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall ye defile yourself with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So I really like 44 in Leviticus, because here's the whole thing. It's about these dietary laws. But then when you get to 44, you have the Most High God saying, for I am the Lord, your God, not the world's God, your God. I am the Lord, your God. He is the God of the children of Israel. But he also happens to be the one and only true living God, which is why we are the royal priesthood. So not only is he our God, because other nations have their gods, but our God happens to be the one and only true living Elohim. He's the true living God of all gods. Man, and we think we're not special. Now you know why people worked so hard to convince us that we are not a special group of people. They didn't want you to know who you was. They didn't want you to know that you was a royal priesthood, and they didn't want you to know that ye yourself are a God. No, we're not the Messiah. No, we're not the Most High God. But when you are keeping the Most High God's laws, statutes, commandments, and you are teaching them and walking in the halakha of it to the best of your ability, the Most High says in Scripture, ye are gods, which is why they worked hard to make us slaves. Take that away from you. Keep going. For I am the Lord your God. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Now listen to what he's saying. Neither shall ye defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. I love this. Ye shall be holy, for I am holy. So for everybody who thinks that you are holy, but yet you eat crabs, shrimp, lobster, oyster, calamari, catfish, according to scripture, according to God's word, there is nothing holy about you. You are an abomination because you put these things in your body. So it really doesn't matter what you try to convince the rest of the world of. They can think that you some person on a pedestal. God says that you are an abomination and you are unclean and unholy. Excuse me. 45. For I am the Lord that bringeth you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. So here's God again giving instructions. I'm the one who rescued you and took you out of Egypt, which was our ancestors. So you should be holy because I am holy. I took you on. 46. This is the law of the beast. Let me get a bell on that. This is the what of the beast? The law of the beast. But wait a minute. Christianity said the law died. Again, I'm going to read it again. This is the law of the beast. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 46. This is the law of the beast, and of the fowl, and of every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth. So as you can see, as I've stated in other videos, and I will continue to state, it is all about laws, statutes, and commandments. And here's the Most High God telling you this is the law of the beast. These is what you can eat and what you can't eat. 47, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten. So that's the last verse. And see how he told you on the last verse. The whole purpose of this is so you can learn what you can eat and what you cannot eat. So if you ever having any doubt of what you can and can't eat, Leviticus chapter 11, it gives the whole breakdown of what you can, excuse me, and what you can't eat. And there's no excuses for you to continue to be unhealthy and be an abomination in the sight of God. Don't listen to what people tell you through religion. Religion was created by man. If you are a descendant of ancestors who were part of the transatlantic slave trade or the Saharan slave trade, you are an Israelite. You have rules, laws, statutes, commandments that you have to live by. Whether you accept the reality that you are an Israelite or not, these rules still apply to you. So you can go through your life and pretend that you're something else or really believe it, but you're still going to face the consequences if you do not keep these laws, statutes, commandments, and those consequences deal with sickness and death. And we have to wake up and do better so we can teach this to our children, keep ourselves healthier, and we can stay around longer. It's all about the Most High God's laws, statutes, commandments. What did the Messiah say in the New Testament? Think not that I've come to destroy the law nor the prophets, for I have not. I've come to fulfill it. And I know the tricky part, they tell you about the fulfillment, but we'll talk about that another time. So as you can see, those are the dietary laws. There's no longer any room for confusion. All right, so I want to go into something else here because that word abomination was put in there quite a few times. So let's see if we can pull something else as a precept to get an understanding of the abomination and the seriousness of it. All right, so now I'm going to take you to Isaiah. So let's go to Isaiah. Pull up Isaiah here. All right, so we can go to Isaiah, and let's go to 66 and 14. So chapter 66, and let's start at 14. So we'll read 14 through 18. So we are in Isaiah, and this is chapter 66, 14 through 18. And it reads, "And when ye see this, your heart shall rejoice, and your bones shall flourish like an herb. And the hand of the Lord shall be known towards his servants, and his indignation towards his enemies." Now, On another time, I'm going to show you who he says his enemies is. But you heard what he said, indignation towards his enemies. 15, for behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury and rebuke with flames of fire. 16, for by the fire and the sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. Now, when it says the Lord will plead with all flesh, it's not pleading like you and I think. Pleading means it's a warning. I'm just going to come and tell you this is what's about to go down, and you got to get right. 17, they that sanctify themselves, pay close attention to this, they that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. I'm going to read that to you again. 17, we are in Isaiah chapter 66, verse 17. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst. So he's referring to those who eat pork and think people don't know about it. You're eating abominations and people are not so aware of it. You're hiding. So this could be, as an example, maybe someone who's claiming to be of the Most High God and holy, but they sneak around and eat pork sandwiches and pork ribs and things of that nature. God is saying, I see you. I will see you. I see all things. So let's read it again. 17. They that sanctify themselves, meaning they're their own God. They sanctify themselves and said, I can eat this. And purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. So this is the Most High God saying, if you are of this, I'm going to consume you. And you know what consumption means when it comes from the Most High. You're going to be done with, along with all the other abominations, such as the mouse. That's scary. That's scary. Pork is not worth that. It is not worth that. But I'm going to read that to you one more time so you understand it. Number 17, they that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. So the time is going to come where you're going to be consumed with all the other abominations. I pray that that is not your path and that you wake up and start taking care of yourself a little bit better. All right, so now let's talk about what we pretty much have been taught, which is through Christianity, they told us that you can eat whatever you want. And this was based on Acts 10, on what happened with Peter, right? So this is based on what happened with Peter. So in Acts, Peter has something happen which caused Christianity to use it as an excuse to teach you that you can eat whatever you want. So let's just get into this. Let's check it out. Let's go to Acts 10, and we're going to start at verse 9, and we're going to go all the way up to 28. So we're at Acts chapter 10, 9 through 28. Let me pull it up on here. Chapter 10, 9 through 28. So let's read. So we're in Acts, chapter 10, 9 through 28. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance. So take note, Peter went up to pray. He was really hungry. And in the process of meditating and praying, he fell into a trance. Number 11, and saw heaven opened and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth. So this vessel was a chariot. Chariots are what we know as UFOs. So yes, some of the UFOs that get spotted on earth are actually chariots from God that contain angels, so forth and so on. And then some of them are other stuff. Some of them are man-made and some of them are of, different powers, right? So he saw a chariot. That's what that means. All right, number 12. wherein all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. Now, notice what it said. All manner of four-footed beasts of the earth. Now, we just learned that four-footed is an abomination. So this is getting a little strange, right? So this is what he saw. But remember, Peter is in a trance. This is not literal. He's in a trance. He was falling asleep and meditating. So let's read again. Wherein all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. So these beasts that he sees in this trance, in this vision, were unclean beasts according to Leviticus and the laws of our dietary intake. So Peter said, No, Lord, for I have never eaten anything unclean or common. And the voice spake unto him again the second time, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. So this is it right here. That's the actual verse that Christianity uses to try to teach people you can eat pork. Because, see, Peter saw animals that were abominations according to Leviticus, and God told him to kill and eat. And then Peter said, No, for I don't eat unclean things, basically. I'm paraphrasing, right? All right. And the voice spake unto him again a second time, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. So it's literally that verse, number 15. But let's go to 16. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. So this happened 3 times, and then the UFO, the chariot, went back up into the heavens. All right, I lost my place. Here we go. 17. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, was lodged there. So when you hear him saying Simon, it's still talking about Peter. See, notice first we heard the word Peter. God said, Peter, rise, right? But now these men are looking for Simon, whose surname is Peter. So we're still talking about the same guy. All right. And called and asked whether Simon, this is 18, which was surnamed Peter, was lodged there. So these men came looking for Peter, and they're saying, Hey, does this guy live here? 19. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, Behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise therefore, and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Okay, so we need to take note of the Most High sent the Spirit, an angel, to talk to Peter and told him, Get up. There are people coming for you. It's 3 men coming from you. And when they come, you go with them and don't doubt anything, for I am the one who sent them. So if the Most High God is the one who sent these men, what's your clue on that? These men are Israelites, because God said he's only known us of all the families of the earth. So that's your first clue that these men are Israelites that they sent to him. All right. Let's see. Let me find my spot. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am whom ye seek. What is the cause wherefore ye are come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth God, and of good reporting among all the nation of Jews, was warned from God by a holy angel to send for thee into his house and to hear words of these. So we have to take note that Cornelius the centurion was a man that feareth God and of good report among the nation of Jews, which means what? He too was an Israelite. That's why he was a man who feared God and was of good report of the nation of Jews, was warned from God by an holy angel to send for thee into the house to hear the words of thee. So God sent an angel to tell the centurion, Cornelius, to send the 3 men that are now at Peter's house, and they want him to come so they can hear the words of the Most High's law, statutes, commandments. All right. Then called he them and lodged them. And on the morrow, which is tomorrow, next day, and on the morrow, Peter went away with them, and certain brother from Joppa accompanied him. And the morrow after, which is the day after that, they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and he had called together in his kinsmen near friends. And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, Stand up, I myself also am man, meaning no one is supposed to get worshipped but the Most High God. You don't worship man, you don't worship beast, you don't worship angels. All you worship is the Most High God. So though these men have been sent to come get Peter because God told them who he was and he can bring them the word of God, when they dropped to their knees to worship Peter, Peter told them, get up. I'm like you. I'm just a man. You can't do this. You're going to get me in trouble. All right. But Peter took him up, saying, Stand up, I myself am man. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. Okay, so he talked with him, and he found many that had come together. Well, remember, everybody was a Jew. All these people so far are Jews. So if they're going somewhere where it's many, it's going to be with other Israelites. It's going to be with other Jews. And he said unto them, Ye know that this is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God hath shewed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. So this is the verse where they are using to say things can't be called common or unclean. But let me break this down for you. What Peter is saying is that the people that you've brought me to, so let's say it's a little pub, right? These people are actually Israelites, but they don't claim themselves to be Israelites, just like a Christian today. But they really are. And according to the rules, he should not place himself around these type of people, even though they are bloodline Israel, but they live their life according to the traditions of other nations, such as Christmas, holidays, Valentine's Day, Halloween. See, those are traditions of other nations. So if you are living your life that way, you are viewed as a Gentile. So this is what Peter's saying. It's unlawful for me to be in this establishment with these Gentiles, even though they're really Israelites, but they don't claim it. They live their life according to the traditions of other nations. I can't be around these people. And then he says, but because of the vision that God showed me, I cannot call something common or unclean anymore. Why? Because God sent Peter to those people to give them his word so they can now become clean. And this is why he won't call them common or unclean anymore, because they are now going to receive the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God, which is going to make them no longer be an abomination. Let's keep reading. 24. Therefore came I unto you without gainsaying. As soon as I was sent for, I asked therefore what intent ye have sent for me. And Cornelius said, 4 days ago I was fasting unto this hour, and at the 9th hour I prayed in my house, and behold, a man stood before me in bright clothing, and said, Cornelius, thy prayer is heard, and thy alms are had in remembrance of the sight of God. Send therefore to Joppa, and call hither Simon. Remember, Simon is Peter, whose surname is Peter. He is lodged in the house of one Simon, a tanner by the seaside, who he cometh shall speaketh unto thee. I'm sorry. So this is the proof right here that Cornelius had this all coming from God. This is God who instructed him to do this. He's the one who went and got Peter, who was of righteousness. And that's why he explained to Peter that he knew that he was of righteousness. Let's back it up here. But again, Peter was letting him know, normally I wouldn't do this. I would not be in an establishment with people who are not Israelites and don't keep the Most High's law, statutes, commandments. I would call you unclean and I would call you common. But because of the vision that Peter had earlier, remember when he went upstairs to pray and he was hungry and he fell into a trance? This is when he had the vision of the four-footed animals that were unclean and God told him to eat. So it was really just God teaching Peter that it's his job to make these people no longer be unclean. It had nothing to do with the dietary laws, which is why when when God said, rise, kill, and eat, Peter said, no, I've never eaten anything uncommon. And that's what he's referring to. So when God said to him, basically, don't call something uncommon that I say is not, he's saying, this is how I need you to cleanse these people. It had nothing to do with the dietary laws. So don't let them trick you in through Christianity of saying, Peter said that we can eat it. That is not what Peter said. And that is not what Acts say. It was all about Peter being a man of God, having this vision, and God had other people talked to by the angels to come get Peter so he could take him to the area where many of them gathered, and they all can begin to learn from Peter. But I want to point out to you, let me find my place here. I'm looking at my notes. All right, I want to point out to you number 24, which further proves who they were. So 24 reads, and the morrow after they entered in Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them and had called together his kinsmen and new friends. Kinsmen and new friends. So kinsmen is referring to people who are of you, which means these were other Israelites. Now, I'm going to take you to a precept to prove that. So let's go to Romans. So we need to understand what kinsman is. So we'll go to the New Testament. So let's go to Romans, and let's go to Romans 9, and let's go to 3. Let's start at 3, and let's just go to 4. So we're in Romans 9 and 4, and I'm going to use this as a precept to show you what kinsman was referring to in 24 of Isaiah. So in Acts 10, 24, we saw it said, and the morrow after they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius awaited for them, and he had called together in his kinsmen and his near friends. So I'm telling you that Peter and Cornelius were surrounded by other Israelites. That's what kinsman is. And that's why he said, I cannot call you uncommon or unclean, even though I used to. But because of the vision that God gave me, I now know not to call you that because I need to come here and teach you how not to be that. But let's go to Romans 9 and let's read 3 and 4. And it reads, for I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of God and the promise. So there you go. Get a bell for that. So there's your proof of what kinsman is. I'm going to read that again for you. 2 verses. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh. Number 4, who are Israelites. Number 3 just ended with saying my kinsmen according to the flesh. And number 4, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of God and his promises. Praise the Most High God. Hallelujah. I want to read that again. Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption. We are the only family that God has ever known on this earth. And the glory, us. And the covenants, us. And the giving of the law, us. And the service of God, us. And the promises. There you have it, folks. It's all about the Israelites. So once again, I thank you for tuning in. Excuse me, it's my allergies. I hope this lesson has given you a little edification and clarification on things. And remember, you are of the royal priesthood. You just need to accept who you are and step into your heritage and start living a more blessed and benefited lifestyle and get away from sickness by changing your food habits and eating the proper dietary foods that the Most High God said that we can eat. So I hope this helped. I will definitely catch you on the next video. I enjoyed this. And as usual, praise the Most High God for today's lessons. I'm your boy, Brother Mike. I'll catch you on the peace side. Shalom. Peace.